Music Group, securities offered by MoneyBlock, with your overnight action report from MarketStream.live. Well, it has been an exciting 24 hours here in Chicago. The Cubs, they're hanging on. So it looks like the markets are trying to do the same thing. As a matter of fact, I'm taking a look at it right now. And the Asian markets, they're a bit on the downside. Struggling right now, the overnight action. Taking a look at the Nikkei, I got the Nikkei down about 0.1%, the Hang Seng down about 0.1%, and Shanghai down 0.1%. Now, Japan, we talked about this a lot. We saw a lot of movement in the bond market early last week. It did not quiet down. Overnight action, though, in the Nikkei was really seen in the consumer discretionary area, down about 1%. Healthcare was down about 0.8%. We're also looking at energy. We mentioned it last week. That was moving quite volatile in the Japanese markets, down 0.4%. But technology, they were up about 1%, and utilities up 0.9%. There could be a little bit of a yield search right now in the Japanese markets. Let's see if that trickles over here in the U.S. And then the financials, up about 0.7%. They were outperforming. If you take a look this morning at the EWJ, which is the ETF that you want to track that trades here in the United States during our hours, it has all the stocks that we mention here on the MarketStream Live overnight report. That's right now pricing in for the remainder of this week around a 21-cent move. So not a huge move, but we want to keep an eye on that. Taking a look at Hong Kong's Hang Seng, again, it ticked down about 0.1% for overnight. You saw Beijing Technology Group, Datang Telecom Technology, they lost between 4 and 4.5%. So you see those sectors and those specific names under some pressure. Taking a look at Asher, which is the ETF that tracks the top 300 stocks in the Hang Seng. It was interesting. Right now, they're pricing in about a 47-cent move this week, plus or minus. So keep an eye on that. We could see some volatility in there, especially if we start seeing these technology names start to come under pressure in China. We want to also take a look at India. Well, guess what? It is Diwali, which is the Hindu festival of lights. So the actual exchange is closed. But the EPI, which is the ETF that tracks the Indian stocks, it's pricing in the potential to move this week of around 47 cents, plus or minus. So keep an eye on there. There could be some movement there. Switching our attention to Europe. We see that the FTSE right now is down about 0.4%. We see that the German DAX is down about 0.4%. We're seeing the French CAC down as well, about 0.7%. Now, Germany, most of its components are really getting hit on the chin right now. Primarily exporters like Continental, BMW, Volkswagen, and Daimler are all down about 0.5% to 0.8%. Why is that important? And why do you want to pay attention to that when I'm talking about stocks that trade in another country? Take a look at EWG and see how it trades, knowing that these exporters are under some pressure. EWG, which is the ETF that tracks Germany, is pricing in the potential this week to move about 49 cents, plus or minus. So there is some decent movement there. Want to keep an eye on that, and also take a look at these ETFs to see if they're something that you could utilize in your portfolio. That gives you your true diversification. Taking a look at the UK's FTSE, down about 0.4%, with consumer names showing some relative weakness. That's important to keep an eye on. We've been talking about that. Names like Associated British Foods. I'm looking at Sainsbury, Coca-Cola, HBC, as well as Tesco, all down between 0.9 and 1.3%. EWU, which is the ETF that tracks the UK stocks, is pricing in the potential to move this week of around plus or minus 32 cents. So let's keep an eye on that. The French CAC, that was actually up about 0.8%, but we did see some laggards, and BNP Paribas was the biggest one, falling about 1.4%, as well as Societe Generale and Credit Agricole, both down near 0.6%. Now, you do see that the contractors, they're also under some pressure. We want to keep an eye on that. And while the CAC is up, I'm a little bit concerned about the fact that we're seeing some of these large cap names under pressure. We want to keep an eye on that. The EWQ pricing in for the next month between now and November expiration, which is the third week in November, plus or minus, in other words, up or down 89 cents. So we want to keep an eye on EWQ. That'll give us an indication of what's going on in France, and we can trade it here in the U.S. Finally, we want to take a look at Italy. The MIB slid about 0.9%. Now, we see BMPS, that slipped about 6.7%, as well as Banco Pop Emilia Romagna, as well as Banco Scarl and Banco Popular. They all were down between 1.7% and 2.6%. I'll work on my Italian after the show. EWI is pricing in right now about a 72% move either up or down in the ETF for this week. So the weekly options are giving me that indication right now is movement in this ETF that has these very stocks that I just mentioned in and reflected in there in that ETF. So we could see some volatility there. Again, still seeing that pressure both in financial names. We're also seeing it in large cap aerospace as well as the financial sector. And most importantly, we're starting to see the consumers in certain areas of Europe under pressure. Finally, Spain. We see that Spain basically is flat, pricing in the potential this week in the monthly of a movement in the ETF that tracks Spain. EWP is the symbol, about 99 cents plus or minus. So we got some action that's coming in early this week, but what should we expect? The Cubs are still in the World Series. We got a lot of activity this week, and keep an eye on the merger and acquisition news that keeps hitting the headlines. There is a lot going on, folks. We need to stay on our toes, but also be able to read between the lines, and that's what we're here to help you do. All right, this is Joe Cusick from the Cusick Group, securities offered by MoneyBlock, with your MarketStream overnight report. We'll talk to you soon. See you at the open at 9:30. Take care.